Hey crew, what's up? So if you follow the channel, you know for the last several months I've been talking about Harley Davidson's next motorcycle, the Custom 1250 or the Nightster or whatever they're going to call it. Why am I so interested in this Harley Davidson that they just announced they would reveal on July 13th? Is it because I want a 140 plus horsepower cruiser? No. Is it because I think this will be a way to gauge how likely Harley Davidson is to put the Bronx back on the drawing board? Partially. It's mostly because I think this launch will tell us what the future holds for the Sportster lineup. First, I'm not a huge Sportster fan, but I'm not a hater either. Before anyone gets butthurt, I've owned one for a short time. And yes, I have ridden several, including a 2021 1200 iron just a few months ago. A lot of sources have been speculating for at least a few years now that Harley was either going to kill the Sportster or update it. Ever since the Custom 1250 engine was announced, some people assumed this would be either an upgrade for the Sporty or a replacement, just because the 1250 is so close in size to the 1200, and the Sportster is getting a little long in the tooth. Other people scream, "No way would Harley kill the Sportster. The Sportster is the most iconic Harley Davidson ever." The Sportster is the only affordable entry-level bike that Harley has to get people into the Harley Davidson brand now that Harley has discontinued the street models. They can't get rid of it. Some will even say, Harley hasn't updated the Sportster in years. They have to be making money off of it, and they won't kill it if it's profitable. On the other side of the coin, we'll have those that will say the Sportster is not that popular, and since Harley Davidson cannot sell them in several countries now because the Sportster models were not updated to meet Euro 5 standards, that it makes sense to update or replace this model. The Sportster's been around since 1957 in one form or another, and the last real upgrade to the line was optional ABS and higher compression in 2014. And before that was 2007 when they went to fuel injection on all Sportster models. So, as this bike nears 65 years old, and with no significant changes to the bike since 2007, many would say this line is overdue for an upgrade. Others would scream, leave it alone. If you didn't know, the Sportster is the last Harley Davidson to use the Evolution engine. Over 20 years ago, Harley Davidson moved on from the Evolution to the twin cam for the Softails and the Dynas. I started riding Harley Davidsons on a used Evo, just as the twin cams were introduced. The Evo will always have a special place in my heart, and I understand why some people like it and want one still today. When I ride Firecracker's 21-year-old Dyna with an unbalanced 88 cubic inch twin cam, it vibrates. And I don't just mean a little. It has short exhaust and it's loud. And I mean loud. We think a previous owner put cams in it because this carbureted beast lopes just like a hot rod should. Just the other day, I took it out for a ride to fill it up with gas before me and her went out on a ride, and it made me remember why I love the Harleys, what the old Dyna was like. This thing still shakes, rattles, and rolls, and baby, it feels like you're riding a beast. My 2016 Bagger does not feel like that. It's smooth and comfortable, don't get me wrong. I like them both, but for different reasons. What I'm trying to say, it's okay for some people to love the Sportster for the same reasons other people hate it. Things like looks, sound, and feel are subjective. And yes, I know the Sportster doesn't have a ton of power stock, but it's still fun to ride. There is more to a bike than just specs. The Rebel 1100 beats the Sportster on specs and tech, stock. But after riding the Iron 1200, I must admit, I think I would be more uncomfortable on the Rebel at the end of the day than on the Iron if I was doing an all-day ride. And as I've said before, for less than $1,000, you can do a bolt-on kit and get over 90 horsepower and almost 90 foot-pounds of torque out of a Sportster. That sounds pretty damn fun to me. By the way, for just a few dollars a month, you can get early access to videos like this and other perks. If you're interested, just click that join button down below and you'll get more details. Okay, let's talk about some of the reasons why people feel Harley should not get rid of the Sportster line. First, it's iconic. Well, if you Google iconic Harley Davidson, almost every 10 best Harley Davidson list will have a Sportster in it. So yeah, I think we can agree that most people feel it is pretty iconic. But is that a reason to keep it around? Others say it's the only entry-level bike they have left. Well, Harley-Davidson has made a really hard play to get into selling more used bikes since the new CEO took over. And Jochen recently stated that he didn't see any reason why dealerships should not be competing with private sellers in the used bike area. I said it before, I think this certified pre-owned bike program they came up with is about having more affordable options for potential customers that can't swing a brand new Harley-Davidson. You could argue that the used bikes are going to be the entry-level bikes for Harley-Davidson going forward. But the Sportster's got to be profitable, right? So why get rid of it? Who cares if it can't be sold in some countries? I've heard that said more than once. Well, the fact is about 30% of Harley-Davidson sales are international. And they just can't ignore what is going on in these other countries. There is going to be a certain amount of overhead to producing any motorcycle. So when sales dwindle, the margin of profitability drops. But the overhead doesn't. Since 2014 to 2020, Sportster and Streets have consistently been 21 to 23% of sales. But when Sportsters are 10 to 12,000 and baggers are double that and represent a much higher profit margin, which would you focus on selling? In 2014, Harley-Davidson had a 12% market share in Europe. In 2020, that number has slipped to below 8%. I think here in the US, where Harley-Davidson is still the best-selling brand, we tend to forget what's going on in the other markets that represent 30% of Harley-Davidson's sales. I know some people will say, who cares about the EU and their regulations? Well, the employees that build these motorcycles, the dealership employees that sell these in those markets, and the logistic companies that ship them are just a few. Let's face it, pulling out of these markets would mean more American job losses and HD would continue to shrink. Regardless of how I feel about it personally, when I look at the numbers and I think about it from a business perspective, I can see why Harley-Davidson will have to discontinue the Sportster or upgrade it. With this custom 1250 coming out, we will soon know which approach Harley is taking. But either way, the Sportster as we know it is probably on its last model year. I think how the custom 1250 is priced will determine if it's a Sportster replacement or more of a V-Rod replacement. Now, don't lose hope entirely. Harley-Davidson patented an air-cooled motor with variable valve timing not that long ago. That motor will be better equipped to take on those pesky Euro 5 emission regulations. Maybe once that motor is ready for prime time, Harley-Davidson would reintroduce a Sportster-like air-cooled V-twin motorcycle. No matter what, if you're still in love with the Evo motor, you better get out and grab one. The good news is I see plenty of them on Facebook Marketplace. The bad news is the price might go up once Harley-Davidson officially puts the Sportster line to rest. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and share it out. If you do that YouTube thing, check out the content on my channel. And if you dig it, hit that subscribe button down below. Don't forget to ring that bell to be notified the next time I drop a new video. And as always, thank you for your support. Stay safe and keep on riding.